Rock. So, LukaNation, welcome back with another episode of LTB, Lucas Tigers and Bronze. And today's episode is one where I want you guys to be involved in this, okay? I want you guys to comment. I want to see your takes on the current state of the hobby. I think today's episode is going to be a lot of opinions, What's right with the hobby? What's working? The man in front of me is someone I've gotten to know pretty well over the last 6 months. I'd actually say he's a mentor of sorts, 5-6 years older, has a ton of business experience in marketing and client services and events. And about 6, 7, 8 months ago, I don't remember exactly when Bleecker opened, he wanted to bring an experience, a sports card experience to West Village in New York. Because honestly, there's no more card stores in New York. And people fly into New York, people pass through New York. I mean, hell, a lot of people live in New York. And he was like, man, I know it's risky. I know it's a lot of overhead, but I think the city needs this. And here we are a little bit later, and we're going to, on the fly, very candid, have a conversation about what's working with the hobby, how distribution might be a legacy kind of service, but might be hindering and helping the hobby. We'll talk a little bit about that, what some of the big businesses can do to support local businesses. And honestly, a whole bunch else. So I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I want to hear your guys' takes because by no means do we think we're experts. We want to hear what do you guys think what do you think an LCS needs? What do you think a good trade light looks like? What do you think the big businesses can do to help local LCS? So please be involved. Please listen to this episode with that kind of perspective. These are just opinions. And without further ado, Mr. Mark Zablo. And honestly, I imagine Cage has been going to LCSs for close to 35 years. So this guy knows what an LCS needs. And I'm excited to get his takes because a lot of the best conversations we've had with you, Cage, have been offline. You have amazing ideas. You help people. You want to offer your expertise. So I'm excited for today's episode. Hope that wasn't too long of an intro. Mr. Mark Zablo, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you.
It's flattering as always to be back, and you'll make me cry with those nice words about being a mentor to people that I was excited to get to know as innovators in the hobby. So thank you. Probably the nicest compliment I've got so far. I know the folks from Slab Stocks are always very similar in their pleasantries to me, but it's really cool to hear it from you. So
how do you know the Slab Stocks guys?
Saw them early 2019. I sought them out at the National, saw what they were doing, and flew out to Milwaukee, spent some time with them. Really wanted to invest in what they were building. At the time, they were kind of on their own path. I was a little too late. They had already been talking to who they, went through. So we developed a nice relationship, though, and always appreciated early on how they were the first people to really kind of bring data to social media.
Sure.
They have a lot of fun. They have a lot of spirit, and spending some time in Milwaukee really made me understand what minimum wage is out there, and some opportunity to grow a digital business if I could put my mind to it. So I'm bummed it didn't happen, but they're always very kind when they see me, and vice versa. We haven't had them at Bleecker yet. We always offer them to come, but they're busy getting married and doing other stuff.
Good guys. There's a lot of good guys in the hobby, and what's funny about it is we have like hobby celebrities. Ken Golden behind security guards and at the National, and Nat Turner, no security guards, out there shaking hands, pressing palms. I actually had a Bleecker experience this past weekend that I'll thank you for. You didn't even know about it. I went and I robbed the store. No. So here's the Bleecker experience. So I'm watching football with my son, and out of nowhere, this monster comes and sacks Russell Wilson. And he gets up and he does a little dance. And I said to my son, Ian, I met that guy at Bleecker. I showed him my Michael Jordan rookie card. He was holding it. He was like, it was Isaiah Simmons. I'm like, he was there. We were hanging out. We were just chatting, and I talk about what kind of cards he likes, who he's into and that kind of stuff. And then here he is, playing literally every defensive snap. The guy didn't take a break. He's got a motor like you wouldn't believe. And I said, I'm like, he's like, wow, that's cool. You met him. He's big, like what an 8-year-old would say. Right. But I had almost like a reflective moment, right? It's like, that's a cool experience. You know what I mean? Like, you're right, Andrew. I've been going to card stores for 35 years. I've been going to LCSs for 35 years, but I've, at least in my recollection, I remember being a kid, I never met any NFL players in any of those stores. I mean, I met some, like, where I'm paying for an autograph at a card show where they're being paid to be there and that kind of stuff, right? But not just, hey, check it out, I got this card. Let's chat. Are you into cards? Well, oh, you're playing in a week. Good. Nice to meet you. No clue. That's cool. And it reminds me, and Mark, maybe you can touch on this a little bit, about, what your thoughts are for the store and for the brand. Over the last couple of years, I've seen commercials for, like, Groupon is a great example, right? And they call it, like, the doer culture, right? Like, don't buy an item, buy an experience. When you're on Groupon, hey, 60% off, go climb that mountain. And this is kind of the way that our society has changed, especially the young folks, your generation, Andrew, and folks younger than you. It's all about the experience. It's all about going out and doing stuff, not going out and just buying something. It's going out and paying for an experience, right? That's Bleecker to me. That is what makes Bleecker very different than any card store, LCS, you name it, that I previously had gone to. Sure, you could walk in, look at a card. But this is walk in and have a trade night, meet other folks at who I've interacted with on Instagram, buy some cards. You know what I mean? Look at some Type 1 photos. Talk to Mark, meet John Starks. I mean, like, just cool stuff, man. And I think that's what sets Bleecker apart from anything else. Now anybody else is doing it. It's an experience to go to Bleecker.
I'll jump in real quick, and I want to hear your take. You go to a theme park, though, Cage, you have an experience, you pay an admission fee, right? What's difficult for these LCSs, and I grew up in retail, is being able to cover their bills, right? Because they put on these experiences, which the customers love, right? But then at the end of the day, they might want allocation, they might want to break or rip the best products, and now you have to go and get allocation and distribution. So, Zablo, we talked about a lot of things. I'm sure we'll bounce all over the place. We'll talk about the hobby, talk about big businesses. Where do you want to start with? What's top of mind for Mark Zablo, who's in the thick of things? And real quick, guys, you're going to be listening to this probably like 7 p.m. on Tuesday. Starstock auctions live right now. So go to starstock.com, click on breaks, or click on collections, I believe, and you'll see Starstock auctions. Check it out. Do me a favor. You don't have to buy anything if you don't want. Just see what it's all about, okay? So starstock.com. Zablo.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, you guys know the work I'm doing with Starstock, and can't be more excited to be part of what they're doing tonight with the auction. So please, everyone, check it out. Looking forward to the feedback. We're launching it very slow and steady, and we're going to really, I think, do what you guys do well here, Andrew and Cage, is you ask your audience to engage and give you the feedback and opinion. So super stoked about that. Scott and the team have really built a killer product. I'm really more excited about what they have launching soon. I'm never allowed to speak, so that would be the most that they let me say. But trust me, if I'm spending time on it, it's good for the hobby. So to that extent, Bleecker, we aim to be what's best for the hobby. We don't get it right all the time, but what we are proud of is almost a year later, we feel we're getting it right. And you guys use the word allotment. And, like, let me be I don't know if I'm the first to say it, but let me try to be the loudest motherfucker in the room to say it, which is allotment's a 4-letter word. So if anyone doesn't like me cursing on shows or in person, then don't bring up the word allotment in front of me, because to me, allotment is as bad as the word fuck and everything else I can come after that. Otherwise, we're very happy with what almost a year has brought us here. And when I say happy, yes, do I wish we had allotment to be able to get wax and sell it, and really operate like the LCS.
For people out there that don't know, real quick, Zablo. So, like, let's say I own a cafe, and my most popular product is bacon, egg, and cheese. The distributor limits how much bacon I can buy. Is that? Am I thinking about it the right way?
Well, let's just use it like my business. My
I
most
gotta
popular...
smile at a Cage. When I bring up bacon, Cage gets happy.
So
I smile. I want to hear about bacon. That's it. That's easy.
Look, in a commodities business like bacon, I don't know. In the wax business, which I'm learning, And one of the great things about having Bleecker with the trade nights is you get people like Jimmy from Jimmy's Kentucky Roadshow to really come and share some of this guidance and knowledge with you. But the way I would look at it is let's look at Prism hobby basketball. And the card father from Burbank broke this down well, right? The retail goes to the stores, the hobby stores, are really the hobby products going to the aftermarket and the breakers, et cetera. For our business, in order for us to get Prism Hobby at a price that is competitive in the retail with, let's call it Dave and Adams or Steel City, we have to spend a lot of money with our distributor, who happens to be GTS, on a lot of different products. And based on how much we spend, that dictates how much product we get at what they call the allocate, or how much product we get allocated at the base retail price. So unlike maybe bacon, where it is a commodity, look at it as a Coca-Cola or Pepsi. That's really kind of how I'm envisioning our industry is Coke and Pepsi. You have Collectors Universe, and you have Fanatics really building the roadmap. Before Coke, there weren't bottlers, there weren't distributors, there weren't marketers, right? Some of the first ad agencies were working for Coke or for Budweiser. So they're building those pipelines and those industries for us. It's a revolution, not just in one bucket. And so what the fact is that they don't say, well, if you don't buy every single Dr. Pepper product out there or every other product we're carrying, we're not going to give you the main stuff. I'm sure there's some, you got to buy this to get that, but never do you have a secondary and a tertiary market where the product goes double, triple, quadruple. And so look at Nike, where they say to their stores, or look at Rolex, where they say to their stores, we're going to give you the product. You're going to get access to our tier one product. But if you sell it for $1 more than retail, you're out. Panini, Topps, Upper Deck, they don't do that. They say to the distributor, take it, a certain amount to the stores at an agreed upon price, but the rest, which is usually our reorders, maybe we get one case or a half case at a good price, our reorders, you're paying what is the retail price. And so most hobby shops can never sustain and can never compete. And that's why you hear people say, don't try to be a breaker, don't try to open a hobby shop, because sustainability without a distributor giving you that allotment is absolutely impossible. Now, there's a lot of old card shops that still have allotments from back in days, and maybe they haven't set up as live breakers or they're not fulfilling. So card shops are scrambling to work with other card shops and buy allotment, trade those things around. Bleecker, thankfully, our business model is a little different. We went into this knowing that allotment was going to be the hardest thing we ever had. Excuse me. If you know our history, we always said we weren't going to do wax. We ended up doing wax because GTS called us. And we said, wow, we didn't know we can do that. Now, what we didn't know was that even though we get a little bit of allotment, which is nice, how much allotment you need to compete. And that's something.
So I'm curious, like, we live in this age of direct to consumer, right? Internet made everything direct to consumer. Why is there no direct to consumer options or B2B direct to consumer? Right from Panini, right from Topps, right from Upper Deck.
We're all talking like we joined the hobby in 2019. For us that were in the hobby before 2019, we all forget how much the hobby relied on these distributors to take all this product that sat on shelves, not let the stores return it, or maybe let the stores return it to take the new stuff. But up until 2018, 2019, there wasn't a big market day to day for all of these products. So the card manufacturers weren't like Rolex to the stores. It was the opposite. It was, please take the product. What happened was when it exploded, the regulation never set in. And everyone's saying, hey, I've been in the hobby for 20 plus years. Let me make my money. And you're sympathetic to that and you want to keep that going. Now, what we hear Michael Rubin say is there's some disruption that we could potentially look at and letting the customer capture a little bit more of that margin. And what we grew up on was the ability to walk into a store and spend $20, which was a lot of money even back then. Now we talked about it with Jimmy a lot. We have customers come in, they spend $500, $1,000, $2,000. They go through it in a couple minutes, and sometimes they get nothing of value. And then Jimmy gave me some great guidance. Hey, create some items that are low cost, to you, but high value to a customer that you can give as an over the top thank you. But name a like a casino, maybe a casino has to do that, right?
Because you're
They give
chasing,
you the drinks.
Isabel, you're not chasing a product in the casino. You're chasing, and you're not even chasing a win. You're chasing that dopamine rush, right?
Right. So, back in the day, that wasn't the hobby, but the hobby's evolved. So what we're trying to do, Andrew, is not be that card store that's complaining about the hobby, because we believe, as much as we do complain, and I love to, we do believe that the hobby is going to get course corrected between Collectors Universe, Fanatics. There'll be a Dr. Pepper somewhere too that shows up, maybe a Body Armor if we get even luckier. That's really going to help. Yeah, that's going to really help kind of create those different opportunities. Where we're getting, I think, the right attention right now, if you look at not just our trade nights and what's kind of happening with the people that show up there, but the corporations that are now existing and are really prospering from what's happening are coming back to Bleecker to say, we get what you're doing. We love that you created this community in New York City that does reach globally. You are only a positive for the hobby. And to your point, we charge nothing to get in. Our trade nights are free. If you buy wax, great. I can promise you we don't make money on that wax. I wish we did. But that's not really where we make our money. And the fact that we're getting the golden auctions, the heritages, the alts, we're getting the Rally Roads of the world to say to us, let us partner with you on events. eBay saying to us, can we look at some of your collector showcases and how we maybe fund some of the partnerships you're doing with a Natural or a Ski or a Don Diego? And we're looking at some of those opportunities as, to your point, the customer experience. And maybe the customer experience doesn't need to be funded by the customer. I think, and that's what we're kind of settling into as we head into next year's planning, is where is that experience funded by the hobby? And right now, as we call GTS and Carvin, aka Don Fanucci, we got to let them wet their beak, and I got to carry Sage football, and I got to carry cereal boxes of soccer, and I got to carry box set of Donruss football. But I think, while we don't get the attention from the Paninis and the Upper Decks, and yes, GTS does what they do to support, but they're not as innovative as we technically are as experienced marketers. It's nice to see that we're getting that love from the other side, who's not buying anything from us. They're not putting money in Bleecker's pocket. They're helping us essentially create more of these moments. And that's what we found between the collector's showcases and the trade nights. People just want community, old and young, families or not. I think we have a lot to learn on gaming. And that world, Pokemon had been a big hit for us, and Whatnot had reached out to say, we'd like to help you guys kind of figure out your lane there. So I think what we're going to do is continue down that path, is invest in the customer experience and make the stores, both of them, the social club and the trading card store next door, really the best place for a lot of these brands to engage with the customers. And we'll charge the brands for that. And I think for what they're already spending, I mean, just look at your sponsors alone. You guys are a NASCAR team at this point. It should be fair for
my
us
next
to
sponsor
find the right
is a face tattoo right here. I'm selling the real estate.
Bleecker's too big. We got the new green hats back in, by the way, but I think that'd be a little too big on the face. Maybe we can do something with a patch over here. You never know. But
I kind of feel like
overall,
NASCAR. Check it out. I kind of feel like it. Look like I got a little tops.
I love it.
Little DJ Ski. Little
exactly.
A little Bleecker trading over here. I sort of feel NASCAR-y.
Yeah, and I think our aha moment to that, Andrew, though, was when we started getting brands like Hulu. We started getting brands like Call of Duty and Activision saying, what can we do in your space? It wasn't an aha moment that our space was cool. We knew that. The hobby kind of deemed that cool a long time ago. What was cool to us was they wanted to attract our customers. It was cool to Hulu that the trading card and collectible community was going to be here. Activision and Call of Duty looked at the collectible community. And I'm sure they looked at places before Bleecker, maybe. I'm sure they probably looked at a Sotheby's type, but they ended up choosing us for their partnership to launch their game and the art that came with it.
Well, Bleecker's a place people want to hang out. I've been there a handful of times, and every time, like, the event might end at 9 p.m. when people are there till 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
Yeah, we got to work on that.
Well, one of those things that you brought up, and I'm curious, that's a great for the industry to grow. And I think most of us, 99.9% of the people listening to our show, partaking in the hobby, all want to see it grow. I think that's an interesting collab. Sports cards and esports, right? It's a natural crossover. I actually think there could come a day where, FaZe Clan could have their own card, right? Is that out of the question? So talk to us about that partnership.
We're looking at Fortnite right now, right? I mean, Fortnite has cards and they're doing what they're doing. Activision really looked at us as and for Call of Duty as a way to bring the art in the video game to life. They actually have war photographers in the game. And so these are some pretty legendary photographers. They grabbed their pictures and they needed a home for it. And we were able to kind of do some one-of-ones and bring what we do in the hobby over to that very well. When you think about FaZe Clan and where they're going and kind of, the billion-dollar trajectory that they've had, you see a lot of them are invested in NFTs, and they do have CryptoPunks, or they do have the apes as well.
Banks just flipped this CryptoPunk for like double the money.
Who did?
Banks.
Oh, did he really? Wow.
Yeah, it's just
that's good.
Just making power moves out there.
And now we need to figure out where he put it. Right? Where did he move? Why did he sell it, and where did he move the money to?
Type 1 photos and memorabilia.
But I guess look, when you look around the country, right, and you look at Jimmy in Kentucky, you look at Indy Card Show, or you look at the store in Indy. It's an Indy Card Show where it has like the most incredible Jordan table ever. Is that it, Cage? I think you look at them.
Yep.
You look at a handful of those stores. They're really doing something innovative in the hobby. I think if you look at how hard Dan Fleischman has to run around and, just to service with cards and golf, I don't think there's a distributor in America that can keep up with that, right? But they should, They got 4 Instagram channels, 24 hours a day. Like, we should be feeding that to make sure that goes bigger, not making it harder for them to get product. And then I go around LA and you have these card shops with, like I said, dude's just chilling on his Instagram, doesn't say hello. I'm with my nephew, doesn't even get up. My nephew had his birthday party yesterday at Burbank. That was who John posted. He brought 4 friends. They're 8 years old. His crazy father gave them $100 each, which is way too much, but that was what they did. He lives 30 minutes from Burbank. There's 2 card stores he used to go to near him. That could have been at those other stores for no reason. That's for his allocation.
I'll throw you a question because it's about allocation, right? It's about, the dirty word, right? And I'd love to hear your answer on it because, listen, we love you and, we want to see you succeed. Hell, Andrew and I want to open our own Bleecker stores ourselves one day. I'll do Bleecker Long Island, Bleecker East. Why the hell not? I got a 4th mortgage on my house. Let's rock. It is a can't fail business model. So, but here's the question, right? So, you're building up Bleecker, and obviously you take some lumps while you're building up a new business. That's why you don't like allocation, because you're not getting it, right? You don't like allocation because it's not there yet, because you haven't been here long enough, because the card companies don't know you yet, and because GTS knows that you want to get more product, they know they can give you that Sage stuff, right? So, what's the response to that guy who didn't get up from his chair, right? And he has an allocation. But what he tell you is what you're going through now, the growing pains, the mountain you're climbing now to get to the pinnacle of it. Talk about a bad brand. But to get to the pinnacle of it, right, is that person's done that for the last 10 years. That person's done that when there were lean times, and you're complaining about buying Sage now to get something that you'll make your money back on Sage.
Oh, Cage, I brought that up earlier. Yeah. I believe that person's got 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of misery. I'm not trying to change that. What I'm saying,
but how does the distributor balance that?
You know how the distributor balances it? They don't have to overcharge everybody else.
All right. So I got an answer for you, Mark. And the answer is those guys are not hobby ambassadors. And just as Andrew says, PSA wears two hats. They don't just grade your cards. With that great power comes great responsibility. Andrew says they're also a market maker. Now, I don't think that they are specifically not grading 10s on certain cards, but they are creating markets with the scarcity of these cards. They wear two hats. PSA has a big job. Guess what? These distributors, they have a big job also. And when somebody like Dan and you come into the game with the ability to, sure, get product that maybe you haven't built you haven't put your time in, you haven't paid your dues. How about that for a
I haven't bought
cent,
enough
right?
Sage football.
Right, you haven't taken your lumps over
I
a
haven't
lean
suffered
period
through
yet.
classic four sport.
But I love classic four sport in the 90s, by the way. That was the stuff.
It's my PC, by the way.
So
Ken knows that's my PC.
I mean, I love it, but so I guess the answer for you would be those distributors, they need to figure out, because Fanatics will do it if the distributors don't. They need to carve out almost like a different thing for companies that are going to advance the hobby, because the dude who paid his dude and is now saying, I want to make my money, but he's not doing anything to further the hobby. He's not that a young kid who comes in there, sees this dude making his money, doesn't get off his ass, doesn't help promote the hobby, doesn't give him a freebie. He's just making his money and cashing him while he can. That's not somebody who is going to help sustain the hobby a couple years from now when it goes through a valley from the peak that it's. We've had peaks and valleys, right? And what we need to learn though is, these hobby stores, the reason why there's no store in New York is not because there was never a store in New York. There were stores in New York. I used to go to a card store in New York when LeBron was hot in 2003 when he was a rookie. There was a hell of a store on Maiden Lane. It's not there anymore, right? Because between that 03 and now, there was some damn lean times in the hobby, and they couldn't pay their rent.
It took to Luka. It took to Luka almost. From LeBron to Luka was the dude. I totally.
Can I jump in real quick? Just real quick, 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
I think paying your dues is different than getting squeezed from both sides, right?
Yeah.
So I think we confuse them. I think most people understand in business you got to pay your dues, but I think being squeezed with high rent and high overhead, which is what an LCS is, and people who've run businesses know exactly what I'm talking about. High overhead, but then getting squeezed on margins on top of that, it's very
All
hard
I'm
to survive.
saying is these people who are the market makers need to realize that what worked last time is not going to work now. And that
what I'm saying is that I'm not the only one doing it, thank God. And if I wasn't the only one doing it in New York, I wouldn't have opened it. Right. We both know this is not my first or second business, and it's nowhere towards my means of income.
Right.
It is purely my hobby. So if there was somewhere else to go in New York City, love Montesey, Alex's is not a store to hang out in. There was somewhere else that had the opportunity to celebrate. I wouldn't do it. I'd be hanging out with you guys on trade night because I don't get to really enjoy that, right? No one's doing it. What we're saying is that more of them are coming. Santiago's doing what he's doing. More people are doing that. And the ones that won't change that customer experience because of what could be coming, if we're all hoping with what Fanatics is going to do, that's going to get guillotined, and there's going to be no sympathy for a distributor or a card store who says, I made no money taking on Sage for 20 years, but now that I could take it, now that I could make money, instead of doing the right thing, I'm just going to take it all. Yeah, there's not going to be sympathy in heaven for those people, and, they may not believe in, the same God as me, but I believe in Michael Rubin. I believe in Nat Turner, and, to that
I believe
extent,
in Nat Turner more and more. Every picture he posts, I believe more and more in that dude. His collection.
Every time I see that 90s, but that's my point is I think that the powers that be are going to recognize, maybe not just Bleecker. I think you take the Bleeckers, the Cards and Coffees, the Santiagos, the Jimmys, everything. Jimmy's got 5 stores opening, right? Every great town's got a roadshow coming.
You know what that guy brings? Teeth. He smiles. I've never seen him not with a full smile. He's enjoying
you?
himself, and that bleeds through when you go into an LCS and the guy's like annoyed that you came in and disturbed what he's doing.
But GTS is only KPI. GTS is only KPI. Besides, if you really have 4 walls, if you have a phone number for Upper Deck, their only KPI is how much you spend in certain buckets. And to be fair, that should only be their KPI from what they do. But now they're in a place where they all have to make money. And I'm not saying don't make your money, but if you're going to continue to reward the ones that won't catch up.
Right.
I'm not saying, oh, now that it's open, pull it from all them. But no, but if they won't go walk into Burbank Cards. It's the best place on earth. Burbank Cards should have as much should have as much access to product as Cardfather potentially ever needs. Hands down. And it's just start like that, because that is the experience that every card store should be in America, big or small. It's perfect. It's clean. It's out there. But no, we're not in that system, Kate. So I think it's going to change. And that's why we're pumped at Bleecker. That's why we continue to double down on what we're doing, because all these businesses starting around it, similar to you guys, are starting to recognize that this is the communal home in New York City. And what we do is getting exposure globally. And we can make the revenue we need to make to sustain. We can get the support we need to, whether that's from customers or whether that's from third parties. But we are going into it with the fact that, like the guillotine's coming. And when that happens, we believe we'll be in prime position to get there. In the meantime, we're good at what we do. We know we have to buy wax in many different ways and can't rely on GTS. And we do what we do. Jazz, Christian, even Jacob still. They know how to flip. They know how to buy. They know how to sell. Are we walking around our trade nights, maybe buying a couple extra things to make some young kids happy? Sure. But at the end of the day, we run it as a business. And I think as much as we've been open, and I think what we do is we bring access to the community. Cage, you talk about meeting athletes and things like that. It was cool to have Zay here. But Zay wasn't the host of trade night that day. He was in town. He was with his crew. They wanted to pop by. There was nothing going on at that moment. They knew the association we have with Jalen, with Deshaun, and it worked out nice. When John Starks was here, that was something where we thought it was cool to add it to the card ladder coming. No one was coming in the nicest of ways to see John Starks. They were coming for the card ladder trade night that we had. So, we try to do it differently, and we don't think we're doing it that much different than any other industry. We think what we're doing is cookie cutter to most industries. The only thing that's not cookie cutter is we can't get our product normal ways. So we got to be a lot more creative. And now I think it's time that we lean on the hobby for a little bit more support. But we're elevating it on both sides. So we feel good about finally letting our brand touch some other brands, where I think in the beginning we've been very protective of that.
I mean, I think, and I don't want to behind the scenes, but I think every other hobby brand should want to be with Bleecker or go hand in hand, lock elbows with Bleecker for the next phase of this, because of the experience that Bleecker brings. I mean, I remember the movie American Pie, right? And it was the fun line, right, of like this one time at band camp. It's not a hobby story if it doesn't have this one time at Bleecker, literally everybody who tells, I was at the Bleecker trade night, I met this person, or hey, the other night I was at Bleecker, and it's becoming part of the hobby story. And businesses would be wise to pay attention to that, I think.
I'm curious, just to really quickly pause. You guys listening, I want this to be interactive. Put it in the YouTube comments. We'll probably do an Instagram post about this as well. What do you guys who've been in the hobby, 10 years, 1 year, 15 years, what do you guys recommend? What would you want to see out of an LCS experience? So let us know in the comments. I'm curious myself.
So that's funny, Andrew, because we took a page out of your book and we started asking people what do they want to see at trade night when they RSVP. Besides New York pizza, which seems to get like the number 1 or 2 request, the nicest request, and it's probably up there in top 3 or 4 comments, is keep doing what you're doing and being hospitable. Please be a smiling face when we walk in. Please keep it open to everybody. And that's what we want from an LCS, right? We want to walk in and we want the John from to be. We want John to be standing right there. Hello, good to meet you. I'm the owner. I think we all grew up in LCSs where you kind of met that person, and you feel that you're part of a hobby. You're not just there to spend money. We look for those responses from people, but it's funny. Yeah, They like the hospitality and they want New York pizza. And to us, that's a good sign. That means we're doing something right. Now I think that we have it kind of down. That's where I think we need to step it up a little bit more, continue to challenge ourselves on a creative level. And then, how can we bring not just for the Goldens and for the alts, but, even for the stand-up displays or the show your slabs. We've been talking for holidays about some takeovers, some holiday party events. But, we're 2 stores in New York City for any brand, big or small, to show their product and interact with consumers. And for those smaller ones, we've told them, just show up. We don't want any production dollars. We don't want any help. Just be a part of it. And if we can give that opportunity to the slab shelves and to those companies, that makes us feel good. Smooth sleeves, try to buy smooth sleeves right now. The penny sleeves, completely sold out. Can't find it anywhere.
Basketball card guys affiliated with that, right, John?
John probably is, because he's behind every smart thing in the hobby. And I've gotten to know him a little bit recently. He came by trade night finally. We're going to try to do them on Mondays more. But like another guy, ambassador for the hobby, collects raw, really understands the 90s era that I love a lot. So, I have a nice passion with him. But I believe he's involved with them and a handful of other things. But great product. Can't get it anymore, though, and to me, that's exciting. We're looking to continue to support that. We went very heavy in Type 1s. We have the largest collection of Type 1 photos on display in New York City. So something I have a personal passion for. But to me, it's slab art, and it's oversized, and it looks super cool. So we'll continue to make money and do things in different ways, but we're not making it in wax like a traditional store.
I have an idea that I'm probably going to get guillotined, because it's not a silent L apparently when you're in New York. Guillotined for.
I'm watching too much Wu-Tang.
Let's see how Cage's face reacts to this idea.
I say guillotine.
So I saw yesterday there was a Mike Tyson Precious Metal Gems employee appreciation card. What if Upper Deck? What if Topps? What if Panini? What if Leaf? What if these card manufacturers created a Bleecker edition, Burbank Cards edition, Coffee Breakers edition, and that you could only get that product at those stores? I made Cage smile, and really, I feel like my life is complete now.
I'm gonna stay silent. Awesome. I'm gonna stay silent for other reasons. You'll find out in February why.
Okay, cool.
All I will say.
This is similar to when I predicted stock auctions before it ever happened.
Different route, Andrew. Look at the.
See ya.
That's it. You blew his cover. You made.
There we go.
They heard.
That
was Upper Deck calling him and saying,
exactly. Deal off. You violated the agreement.
We're gonna have this done before the holiday.
They heard. What I think, if you look at the Ben Baller set, to me that was that's the pinnacle of what we're talking about right now. Ben Baller set was the evolution of like what Topps maybe thought was the best of the best at that moment from Project. They turned it into a real set. They really gave it the foil love that it should get. They gave Ben his own little logo to it. And unlike most people, what Ben did to market it, paid off. So, I'd say if I want to continue talking about this topic without revealing too much, what I'll say is we're not being chosen for this product because of anything we did in the last 30 years. It's our ability to help make this product relevant, and what we bring to the equation. And we're excited. I think early February we'll work with you on a launch for this.
That'd be cool.
I think when you look at some of the other stores, I think a Burbank product would be dope. I think Jimmy having his own product would be dope if the store can spend the time to make it creatively unique to them, but also resonate with the customer.
Well, very few have your experience, right? Very few have the agency marketing background. I'm curious, Cage, how much of Project 2020 left a bad taste in people's mouth when it came to those like kind of collabs or partnership deals, right? Because those cards are meant to be, investment cards. those cards are meant to be experience cards, right?
Those are PCs.
Those are PCs. How much of do you think Project 2020 is still a bad taste in people's mouth, Cage?
I know, and I hope I get to teach it at the Bleecker University one day when Bleecker becomes the Amazon.
There we go.
of the
There's our
world,
business
right?
model.
But so I hope to teach it one day. It will be a master's class. It will be like an MBA course, Project 2020. You know, the rise and fall of Project 2020 with Topps. Because you're right. I mean, so many lessons learned from it. Right, market swings, pumps, logistics. You're
You
talking
could
about
do an economics class on that Ken Griffey. Was it the Griffey?
Yep, the Keith Shore.
And if you relate that back to the 91 Griffey?
Yeah. I mean, listen, but you learn so much about the hobby, the pitfalls, the ups, the downs, the eBay, the returns. Sellers got burned. Sellers who were counting their Lambos because they had all of these cards selling that they were paying, $10, $20 for and selling it for hundreds of dollars. And then all of a sudden, when it came to a halt, anything that sold the 30 days before was all returned. So all these people had hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just crazy amounts.
But you don't see that in Project 70. I don't follow it as close. I buy them from time to time. The cards don't go after market very, very, very high, right?
No. I mean, some of them do. Some of them, not high.
What about the first prints?
Yeah. So those are, like the limited ones they sell. There's a market for them. But I mean, the stuff that happened with Project 2020, that was insane. Those first couple of cards.
Yeah, and look, I do collect them because like I'm a big Mr. Cartoon fan.
Yep.
I'm a big Yankee fan, so I collect different things that come out by the different artists. But I like it when it's like 4 of them for $60.
Yeah, exactly.
That to me is a lot more fun.
Well, I mean, that was what it was supposed to be, right? I mean, they're supposed to be these cool card collectibles with the artist take. I mean, that Mark McGuire American flag wood border 87 Topps, with it was a cross of an 87 Topps and the 85 Topps Olympic team. Like for someone who grew up collecting cards when I grew up, that's like a
card.
Cool, yeah. Like I would have made that card if I could make cards. You know what I mean? Like what Blake Jameson did on that card, that was sick. But when it's selling for $20 on Topps, it shouldn't then sell the next week for $1,000.
And I think the testament to that is if you look at what Ski did this year.
Yep,
his cards had put so much depth into them. The art, the story, the music, the connection, the marketing, the eBay, the 101s, and those are selling well in the aftermarket. But no artist has that type of, you talk about this isn't, doing a card store isn't what I do. Putting out content is what Ski does. So the card card really just being an element for him has really allowed him to go further and make those cards worth money. But that's how much work you have to do to get those cards from $20 to over here.
Well, you got to switch it up. And it's like anything else in life. It's like Gary Vee's most recent videos on Twitter and Instagram about cycles and about how people who are early and when you get in and how people get in early enough and ride it up. And then there's going to be people who get in later on. And then you have to adapt to that, right? So with Project 2020, the problem was there weren't a lot of people in the beginning. So the supply was low. Then all of a sudden demand was significantly higher than what the supply was for the initial cards, just like any economics course would teach you. And that had a price correction because there were way more people who wanted than the supply. But now as people got in it and they were able to buy as many as they wanted, and people were incorrectly calculating what the price would be going forward, right? Because you would have had to have continuing multiples of demand. It just wasn't happening. People thought they were going to get the same, return. And for a little while it happens. But
now let's go a different route though. I think kudos to Topps for figuring out a really cool business model that rewarded the hobby.
Of course.
To your point, getting variations of that Mark McGuire card.
Yep.
That to me, so I guess my question is, you look at Tyson Beck murdering it, right? You talk to athletes, agents, and you ask them how they feel about that. You know what they say? My guy makes a little bit less with them than he does with Panini, but he signs 1/10 of the cards. It's so much easier to get my guy to sign 200 cards than 2,000.
Yep.
So kind of like what he's doing. You see what Topps lost in the licenses.
Yep.
Do you think there's a big enough model for them or someone to sustain with non-licensed cards if they bring in this art component?
So there's always been non-licensed cards. The art stuff is definitely helpful because they're branding the artist rather than
Well,
licensing.
Leaf has done the best at the
Yeah.
non-licensed, right?
No, but what I mean though, Mark, is if the brands are good enough. When we haven't had this, right? Because Topps has just been there forever on baseball, right? Topps has just been there forever on baseball. Now they're not going to be there. But you can look at Topps versus Panini for basketball, right? You can look at like Topps. Now, Panini tried to do baseball. The reason why people most of the time say non-licensed stuff doesn't really work is because they look at Panini's baseball product. And when you are Panini trying to compete with Topps on baseball, it's very difficult. That's a hard thing. But we're now entering a different stage of the non-licensed stuff, right? You're now entering a situation where Panini has been basketball. They've built up these brands that matter, right? And brand never mattered before. Brand matters now. And think about this. Andrew on our show recently gave a play that was like an employee-specific play. It was the precious metal of an employee card, precious metal gems. And it was Fleer bought by Upper Deck and, licensed. Who the hell knows, right? But think about that, right? If Panini is able to, in 2027, put out a basketball product that has National Treasures still in it, right? That's very different than Panini putting out, something that was never licensed against Topps. You know what I mean? It's a different thing. Same thing with Topps, right? If Topps is able to keep their Chrome brand for baseball, right? Is it going to carry the same premium? Is it going to carry what it is if it had a license? Probably not. But I may be wrong here, but I still think there are people who are going to want to buy their Topps Chrome rookie cards because that's the brand they've been collecting since 1996. You know what I mean? Now, will it fall off? Sure. But if they're able to, marry a property that people have grown, accustomed to with something else that they like, a license, like an artist, like you're talking about, right? And make it something cool. Ben Baller Chrome, that could be the cool thing that carries it forward. You know what I mean? Because people now are tapping into not just the Topps Chrome, but Ben Baller as well. So I like the idea. I like the thought. Really, Mark, what's going to happen when Fanatics comes in? The success of Topps, Panini, these guys going forward, Upper Deck, is really going to be where we are in the market cycle, right? Are we still moving up? Are we still adding people to the hobby? Are we still having, a healthy influx of new customers, or have we soured?
So when you guys say 2026, 2027, you're assuming they don't cut a deal with any of those card companies.
I can only work on what I have right now, right? And you're right. I mean, they could buy them. They could buy the brands, you name it. But
what I'm looking at is the IP you just talked about.
Yeah.
And the value. So let's say this. Let's say in 2024, we find out that Panini's cut a licensing deal. Upper Deck has cut a licensing deal with Fanatics. Mm-hmm. And the first thing they're going to be bringing back is Exquisite. Do you know what's going to happen with the hobby? We're going to freak out in a great way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, imagine they come back and say we're re-releasing Fleer Ultra Scoring Kings, but for today. We're going to freak out.
Yep.
So I think, I'm curious to see where IP shifts. I think we'll get some nostalgic IP come back. To your point, when people talk about Panini baseball, we suffered through some Panini Prism baseball, but for some reason this year, it's doing really well.
I like it. I like it. I mean,
because you like the card. To your point,
it doesn't sell for as much.
But
Mark, I got to tell you, man, I love you, but I don't see Fanatics doing that. I mean, I'm not inside Fanatics, but I think Fanatics is coming in.
I'm as speculating as anyone is.
I think Fanatics coming in and saying, you know what, we're going to change the game. We're going to do this differently than it's ever been done, and that the way to do that is to break from what's out there and do your own stuff. And maybe they do an exquisite type of Fanatics line. Maybe they call it Fexquisite. Fansquisite, or something with a Fanatics.
Absolutely, I'd imagine Fanatics, and I don't know the first thing about it, right? But what's best or not, but I'd imagine there's properties and products that they should be making, and I would imagine though, with the IP that's out there, knowing you have people like Josh Luber who love some of that IP.
Yep.
I think like the thing I'm excited about Josh is we know he's a hobbyist. Same reason why we love Nat coming in and doing what he's doing, right? So the things you love are going to stay around, and I guess that's what I'm banking on.
Yep.
I don't know if it's this brand or that. I see big opportunity though when you talk about Leaf. When you talk about non-licensed, I think they've done it probably better than everyone. I'll tell you this: GTS isn't asking me to buy much Leaf. And I'm sure if I want to, they would. But there's a mafia on all sides of that, and I think as Fanatics breaks through, there just may be some better opportunities for all.
I have another idea. I'm curious what you guys think. So, Zablo, you've heard of this whole omnipresence thing now. It's been kind of popular for 10 years. We don't really know what it means, right? But you've heard of it in marketing, omnipresence.
Of course.
And that means having a presence wherever your customer's at. It doesn't just mean online. It doesn't just mean in person. It's both, and it's connecting the two. So this year, Panini decided to go digital on their Prism release, right? So what if they could partner with a digital release with local card shops, right? And let's say you complete a challenge on Panini digital cards. They ship a pack of cards with your name on it with the physical challenge card inside to the local SCS. You have to go there, you open it, you break it right there in public. It's cool for the LCS, right? They get unique content. It's cool for the customer. They have a digital card, and now they have they've won a LaMelo color splash, right? It's such a win-win across the board. Could that work?
Why wouldn't it?
Gage, this is kind of your idea.
I already told them to do that. I told Panini to do that. They didn't listen. I mean, that's the way you get more people into digital, is by dragging the people who love physical into it by making.
I mean, did you guys participate in the Panini drop a couple weeks ago?
What do you mean? We're their biggest customer.
The Prism basketball.
There is not a single person who has bought more Panini digital in the world than me.
And how
Take that, Mount Rushmore.
Well, on their Prism blockchain stuff, I would say, and not the Dunk stuff, not the Dunk and the apps, which people really seem to think are going to be fantastic. Also, I'm kind of 50-50 on that. We'll see.
Well, you're at Mint Collective. There's two fights. The main event is Mount Rushmore versus Cage Lawyer for decision-making rights of can you move the blitz and the dunk stuff to the
move it. I'm cool if they move it. Ian's been playing dunk for years. I got Zion National Treasures. I mean, he's got a look.
Is Ian coming to Vegas for Mint Collective?
That would be pretty cool. That would be a good time. We'll see. We'll see if I can get him out of school. Third grade's very important, man. You got to learn your crayon colors in third grade.
Look, we're struggling. We're struggling to figure out the kids' events here. Just what time after school? Because all the activities, it's impossible to even nail that down. So it's be cool to get more of them out to the shows, though.
100%. 100%.
Yeah,
Mark, we love chatting with you, man. Because I got to tell you, whether you realize it or not. Even though it's tough to navigate business, and I'm sure it's not the easiest thing in the world on the daily to try to figure out what to do with Bleecker. It's a card store in the city. Rent's not cheap, right? And you're throwing these events, you're doing all this stuff. You always bring an optimism, positivity about the hobby overall. Never heard you say anything bad about somebody else in the hobby. I've always heard you say, you want this person to succeed, even if it's another card store, you want them to succeed because you are the ultimate of, I want the pie bigger. Because if the pie is bigger, I get to get a bigger slice of this pie, right? You want the hobby to grow.
Do you like circle pies or square pies? Just out of curiosity, Mark, because we've had both at Bleecker events.
Depends where it's from.
Apple pies, which Cage, you ate a half of an apple pie today. What is wrong with you?
I love apple pie.
What?
Honey Crisp. I had to try it out before I serve it to my family. I had to eat half of it just to make sure it was good.
That's not what trying looks like.
Yeah, look, I really pick my
Go to
my
LukaNation,
style of
Cage Lawyer to
pizza. I pick my style of pizza based on where it's from. I know the places that well that I'm very specific. And anyone in New York, at least, you talk a pizza place, they'll talk what before we decide.
All right, best square thick.
Spumoni Gardens.
L&B, Spumoni Gardens in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I get a lot. By the way, you get a lot of shit for that in New York. And if you're in New York City, a lot of people don't like to hear you say Spumoni, but
Really?
I'll take it. I'm not gonna live on Prince Street pizza. I could say made in New York pizza, but I'm an investor, so everyone's gonna think I'm just going to be to the home crowd there. But no, to what you're saying about the optimistic thing, I work 3 jobs, Cage. This one pays me the least and brings me the most amount of joy. So I wish I didn't work here in the nicest of ways. I love what this is. And if I could do anything, it would be this 24 hours a day. And as I build it, I plan to do it 24 hours a day. So that's absolutely in my plans as I plan decade by decade. But what I'll say is, if everyone else does their job, Andrew, you don't need me. Right? Maybe we bring a certain element to the hobby that some people haven't figured out yet. But I'm here because it was missing. We filled the void. And now 50, 75 people showing up on trade nights, yeah, that shows to me that people want what we enjoy too. But to work here, you got to love the hobby. You got to be willing to probably make less money than if you went to work in any other industry. They always say, Willie Sutton, he said Rob Banks. Why? Because that's where the money is. But when they interviewed him, what he said was, it wasn't where the money was. It was where I felt the most alive in those saves with that money is the most excitement I ever had in my life. That's why we work here. That's why we do what we do in this hobby. So good or bad, yeah, I'll try to keep it to myself, even though I normally don't. But we need everybody's contribution. You're running a good card store, bad card store. At least you're running a card store, right? At least there's a place to go buy something, even if they suck.
What's the contribution? What's the ask?
From who?
You tell me, employee.
You're saying what's my ask?
What's your ask of the general public? You could be of the individual hobby participant. Or it could be from the big businesses.
It's a 4-letter word. That's the ask. That's the rally cry.
I still don't know what that means. It sounds provocative, but I don't know what it means.
He's saying anybody who wants should get.
Yes, it means that until they break down that barrier, this hobby will be a little bit broken for the card stores. Breakers will be doing what they're doing, but it's a little bit more challenging. Obviously, the world's getting smaller. For us, we're looking at it non-traditionally anyway. We know we can sell a certain amount of wax if we get it at the right price. We know how to flip cards in the back room. We know these events are generating what they need to generate. Big difference when we put on a trade night or a video game company rents the place out in terms of our revenue for the day. Adam Lefko was kind enough with Ken Golden to include us in their piece. They needed a place to film, but they chose to include Bleecker along the way in the creative because in their mind it was organic as something that's ingratiated in the hobby. So what's the ask? Nothing. Patience, right? Because if Fanatics does what they do and they break down the word allocation, it gets a little easier. And to your questions earlier, guys, we don't need that much. We just need it a little bit easier on the wax side. Bleecker, we figure out how to get creative and do other things. But I think what the hobby needs is just a little bit easier for these card stores. As card store owners, maybe when they do that, we got to be a little less greedy. But I don't think we need to be greedy if we have a steady flow of opportunity.
Type 1 photos. Every time I'm there, I see them. I always ask you, Zablo, did you take these? You're like, no, someone else did. What the hell is a Type 1 photo?
Mark, did you take this picture of Babe Ruth?
I was there, guys.
I'm not the brightest, Cage. I get paid to talk on a show. Sorry.
So I saw these at the National. What I love about the National is you kind of spend time looking at things that you wouldn't see at any other show. And this is Jordan's 6 rings, and we probably have 150 of them here now at Bleecker. So I didn't buy one at the National, but I picked up over 100 since. And
is that like no, I'm gonna lose fans. I'm not gonna say it. Just keep going. I apologize.
All good, but oversized PSA slab. Type 1 photo means it was printed from the negative.
I'd like it better, Mark, if he had the real reason those 6 rings were won. I mean, the photographer made a mistake and put Jordan on there. He should have put Pippen. I mean, he's the better player.
That's true. I think I see Pippen holding up a trophy in the bottom. So
He's holding Michael Jordan's shoes.
I had a good argument the other day with someone of who was more culturally relevant or who was culturally relevant, and I said Scottie Pippen has zero cultural relevance, and they said, well, Michael Jordan's an asshole.
Many of us are, and we don't apologize for it.
Yeah, but no, look, Type 1 photos, they're printed from the negative within the first 2 years. Makes them Type 1, and then there's Type 2 and Type 3 that go 5 years and plus. What's really unique about it to me, Andrew, is not that just PSA slabs them and makes them look like art. I'm sure, at least my wife is sick of seeing my slabs everywhere. When she sees this of Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe, it's a little bit cooler again, trying to make what we do a little bit more outside. But what I love about it is that there aren't photos and negatives after 99, 2000. So you're not going to see a LeBron Type 1. You may see a Kobe. You may see an Iverson. You'll see some Shaq. But after that, it's all early stuff. So being like the 90s geek I am, finding a lot of these Jordan photos, finding a lot of Knicks photos. PSA only charges $50 to grade them, and they get them back to you within like 30 days.
Because they don't get a lot.
If you look at Heritage's monthly auction the other night, they had some baseball ones closing for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I bought a handful of even these gorgeous North Carolina Jordan wire photos from the last Golden auction that were incredible. So for me, I love them as art. We set out a goal to have the largest collection of Type 1 photos on display in New York City. We blew by that very quickly. So now we got to start selling them probably a little bit more. Which is hard to let go of my babies, but some gorgeous Jordan ones, amazing Charles Barkley ones. We even have a Sergeant Slaughter one that was incredible to get. We're having a lot of fun with it, and I think that's what's cool about being Bleecker Trading. Cards is what we're at the heart of, but I think anything that touches that hobby, anything in a PSA slab, whether that is a ticket or a photo, it's sexy to us.
Well, people always have collected for like years and years. Collecting is a part of our DNA. And those are kind of like the first JPEGs. Those are like the first NFTs, right? Because people will say, well, I could take a picture of that too, or I could print that out. But what makes it unique and makes it scarce specifically is the fact that it's made off of the negative, right? So you can only have a certain amount of them out there.
Yeah, and someone much smarter than me can go NFT this whole collection probably and put some really cool properties behind it. I like it because it captures, to your point, that simple moment in time. And there could be multiple frames of it, but you kind of have that exact one. If you look on eBay, you'll see some killer ones. There's Jordan doing the layup. There's some really incredible pictures.
The move against the Lakers.
The move, sorry. The move, that's right. The layup against was 91. The move was 92. You're right. I forgot who the move was against, but that's kind of where I'm having fun, and I do that at card shows. If I'm at a card show, I'm always geeking out in those dollar boxes or looking for the guy that has the most random stuff. The last thing I want to do is even talk about Bleecker at a card show. I'm really there to go hunt for things that remind me of, like, if I can find something with a picture of Shaq's sneakers on it from 92. I'll drive the 100 miles for that VA show, or going to these American Legions. Now that I live in Connecticut, it seems to be like a weekly routine.
Any final words, questions? Every one of our episodes is unique and different, honestly, because we are like a radio show. It's very unscripted, off the cuff. We want this one to be, collaborative. So I want to hear from our audience. I want to hear from Bleecker audience. We talked about a lot of things. What, if you guys were made hobby commissioners tomorrow, or you owned an LCS tomorrow, what would you want to see? Because like it or not, we're all in this together. We're all trying to build an industry that, like we said, grows that pie and everybody prospers. Cage, Mark, any final words before we wrap?
Oh, no, I mean, we got a long
Cage's
episode.
Show.
No, all I'm thinking is it's been too long since I've been to Bleecker. I can't wait to do a cigar night there. Cage cigar night, maybe for tiger holders. You never know.
I think we need a
poker
Cage
night.
and Hootie. I think we
Open night.
need a very, very nice premium quality night hosted by Cajun Hootie. I know the fans and audience and supporters have been asking for some more Hootie driven programming, which we'll get to. But I think
I know that like in your the poster that you guys put up of Don Diego was a big attraction, but just wait till you have a blow up doll of Cage Lawyer on the sidewalk as people walk by.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah. I'm actually I volunteer. I'll be inside of it. You don't even need the blow up doll. I will just do that for hours.
we were gonna ask Cage and surprise him on Monday night when he's here with the Santa Claus outfit, and if he can be kind of Bleecker Claus for us. But now that you kind of came up with a better idea than us, Andrew, we may pivot to what you're saying. But no, I think if I could say, and this has been a very long episode, so I just thank everyone that cared to listen to this much.
You're telling us.
Jimmy's opening up Kentucky Roadshow, I think, up in Bronxville. We're excited about that. We spoke to a handful of other people about potentially opening up in New York City. And I think, that's kind of one thing that we're hoping for is more LCSs doing it the way we're doing it with their own spin on it, pushing back on the system to carve out at least the minimum amount of product we need to succeed and we can be profitable with. And we welcome that. I want Fairfax for sneakers, in New York on Bleecker for cards. To your point, rents aren't as easy, but maybe if the allocation word went away, we can all afford to do it. But no, we're excited. Next year's going to be dope. We have a ton of shit coming. People are getting behind it, supporting us bigger than we ever thought. So, we're just, telling everyone just keep their head up for it.
If you guys are flying into JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, really consider making a stop to West Village. Not just to Bleecker. Stop by Bleecker. Across the street, they have this incredible Italian restaurant with just the best lasagna I've ever had. Down the street, I don't know if you've had it. They have like a bone broth, like a soup store. Incredible. There's just so much in that area, food wise.
Right down the block, he told me about a store called London. It's like down the stairs.
I don't know. We'll go to FICO's for some oversized heroes. We'll hit John's on Bleecker for some pizza. And yes, if you're in New York, please shoot us a DM. Even if we're not open, but we're around, we'll open up to hang with anyone that is fun in the hobby.
Love you, LukaNation. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanksgiving week. I can't believe it. So awesome week.
Week. We're thankful for you guys. So have a wonderful holiday.
Thanks, everybody.